Hello everyone and welcome back to another video from my channel Hybrid Model Railway. Today we have a bag of model railway stuff which we're going to take a look through, and we're going to be unboxing some things that are in it. So, as I announced in my stream, which was last week, I do believe, on Sunday, it was the short one where I was downstairs instead of up here in the loft because it was really quite hot. I told you I had a bag of model railway stuff because in that stream I ran this engine, which is Flying Scotsman, and in fact I shall run that now for you while I'm talking. So effectively in that stream I told you about my new engine, which was indeed Flying Scotsman I've got here. This is Flying Scotsman with realistic chuffing sound, and it's also got the light in the fire hole door or the smoke box or whatever you want to call it. So I told you about I had been to somebody's house and got this big bag of model, well I say big bag, more like medium sized bag full of model railway stuff. It's only full to about there, so it's not like a whole actual full bag, and effectively what I said was my grandma had bumped into somebody in the supermarket who she used to work with, and eventually they got chatting and on about what grandsons did and, you know, people in the family, what they were doing and how everyone else in the family were doing. So they got into a chat and then eventually got onto hobbies and me doing model railways, and they eventually got onto me doing model railways. So said, my husband's just been given a big like 3 big boxes of stuff, some of which had model railway items in. And my grandma said, oh, that'll be interesting. So eventually we arranged to go look at the stuff at this person's house, and I ended up with this bag of model railway stuff along with Flying Scotsman and some other things I'm going to show you in just a minute. So just from a little bump into someone in the supermarket, I've ended up with Flying Scotsman. I've got another engine which I've got to show you, and some useful bits and some bits I can sell on, but also some bits that will be quite useful on my layout. So yeah, just from all that I ended up going to this person's house who my grandma used to work with, and all this stuff actually came from somebody who my grandma's friend's husband was doing a plastering job for somebody because he's a plasterer, and he eventually gave him these three big boxes of just stuff effectively, and the friend of my grandma who she used to work with, husband, we're going to give it to his grandkids to do the car boot, but his grandkids didn't want to hear about it, so I went instead and picked up some of this stuff. So anyway, since you've all already seen Flying Scotsman before, I will run this. As you can see there, runs pretty nicely. It's had a new chassis and a new tender, but the motor and the body and the lighting system are all the same. It's definitely worth it, and it runs so smoothly and so quietly, apart from the chuffing sound obviously. It runs so smoothly and so quietly. I mean, normally trying motors can be really loud, you know, they can growl, they can squeal, but this runs so nice and smoothly, and the valve gear's so nice and smooth to say it's an old model, so it really is a wonderful thing. And obviously you might be able to see the cab light, the fire light in the cab. Yeah, you've probably just got a glimpse of it there. But yeah, so I got this out of it, got a new chassis for it and a new tender, and it's absolutely perfect. It's really nice to have a Flying Scotsman. Now, I know a couple of people asked, oh, I thought you said you didn't like the 4472 LNER Flying Scotsman. I thought you liked the 60103 Flying Scotsman. Well, you're right there. The 60103 Flying Scotsman is my favourite, but it doesn't necessarily mean I actively despise the LNER version. And because it is an LNER, it's the LNER version that has the chuffing tender and the light in the fire door. I just grew an attachment to this model. It's an old model. I do quite like old things. Old things are easy to service, and the chuffing tender and the light in the fire hole door really do make a big difference. So yeah, it's a lovely model, and I've managed to resurrect it with a couple of new parts, and it's absolutely brilliant. So just love this model, can't get enough of running it. And also with the chuffing mechanism not being electronic, it's mechanical, it's a bit of metal rubbing on some sandpaper, it can easily be fixed. Same with the bulb in there, I can also replace it with an LED if it goes pop, but it hasn't gone pop for the last 40 years. So yeah, wonderful model is Flying Scotsman. I shall just park a bit further down the line. and we'll keep her there. I'll lay out all my stuff. So the next thing, I'll do engines first because that's exciting. I also found this. Now, this is a Trying 040. I believe it said Nelly on the side of it. I'm pretty sure it said Nelly on the side of it because of the blue Trying 040s I've seen, that's what it said. Obviously, Nelly isn't on the side there, and it is quite raw. And you can see even on the cab roof where you don't pick up the engine, you don't pick up the engine by the roof, do you? You pick it up by the tanks or by the bottom. Even the roof's got a lot of wear, so if the roof's got a lot of wear on, you can imagine what sort of wear the nameplates might have had here if you've been picking it up there. So I ended up with this Trying 040 out. Now, as you can see, it's very rusty on the sides. It's quite fluffy, especially through the cab. You can see that it's very worn. The chassis isn't really in good condition, and the body fixing screw has also gone awry, and the motor is absolutely filthy. You can see all that fluff and gunk and stuff there, so it's really in quite bad condition. The motor looks okay. It does look like it could have been getting a bit hot. I think the magnet's okay in this one. Yeah, the magnet's reasonably strong in this one. I think it might just be the motor looking like that. Maybe it was running in bad condition. The lubricating pads on this X04 motor look pretty bad. So you may remember this locomotive from my April Fool's video. It's the one I bodged that motor inside it and dropped it and pretended the motor disintegrated and wrongly said my channel name as Model Railway Review at the start and added the fake bleeped swearing in and all that. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to take the motor out of this one. I'll clean up the commutator and otherwise leave the motor as it is because that magnet's really nice and strong. Unusual for trying magnet in that. I'll probably maybe just keep this body. Maybe I can use it in an April Fool's video again, or I might be able to touch it up if I get some paint. But this chassis is completely fine. See, no rust over here. It's got the pickups on, whereas this one hasn't, an adapter bodge pickups on that. The wheels are relatively nice and clean. I can just teak up them up. And otherwise, it's unfluffy, and the body is fairly nice as well. I think this one's been hand repainted because I don't think Trying ever made LMS 040s, but do correct me on that if I'm wrong. So I'll swap the motor over into here. I'll swap the resistor or the capacitor inductor or whatever that is over, and I'll run this motor on this chassis with this body, and then I'll hopefully have a really nice working 040, and I will have 2 engines from this haul, and that'll be pretty nice to have. Obviously I did have one of these before, but the motor died and I wasn't quite as into old stuff back then as I am now. I won't put this one on because it's an engine I have. It's not really from the unboxing video. Moving on, I have this, which is just a leaflet from Hornby that I found quite interesting. Just a sheet talking about the track system and locomotives and couplings and power and, you know, transformers and stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it's quite nice to have this. It's got some useful information about servicing and stuff like that. As you can see there, that's like the Flying Scotsman chassis where it's got that light box on the back there. Quite a bit of useful information there. Obviously I pretty much know most of it anyway, just through experimenting, but yeah, it's quite nice to have this. I can say I've got it, and some useful information about the spider assembly motor, which I tried fixing before but wasn't fixable on an old Triumph Class 31 I had. So anyway, that's quite an interesting leaflet, so I thought, you know what, I'll keep that. It's pretty interesting. Moving on, we have an old Triumph Princess Elizabeth body. It's actually got people fitted inside, driver and fireman, which is pretty nice. Maybe brush that off, clean it, or maybe touch up some of the details with a marker or something. But other than that, that'll be pretty nice to sell on there because I don't really have use for that. Also, with that, I got a chassis with another motor on, which is very nice. Coupling rods are all gone, wheels are very corroded and rusty, so I'll have to get a wire brush on that or sand it down or get a load of T-cut on. The motor is absolutely filthy. You can see, I think, with this one, you can see there I've begun to polish up the commutator, but other than that, not really. So, might be useful to keep, might be useful to sell on. The motor is definitely useful. Not sure about the magnet on this one. Yeah, that's pretty weak. I have got some other magnets, and it is pretty loose, that magnet, actually, because it's missing the thing in the middle. But, yeah, pretty useful thing to have. Could sell it on with that as like a rolling chassis with body on eBay or something. See where I'd pick up for it to recoup some of the money I spent on the spare parts for the Flying Scotsman. Next, I have this little Oxford die-cast van, which I thought was quite nice. I can put this somewhere on my layout. Some people might think it's a bit of an advertisement if I put this on the layout, but you know, it's just a nice little traditional old motor vehicle. Reasonably nice. Oxford Diecast is a really good company. And as well as Oxford Railways for their locomotives and such. I do quite like Oxford as a company. This is my first Oxford thing I've got, but from the reviews I've watched from Sam's Trains, etc, etc, so on and so forth, I do quite like their offerings, and I'm looking to get an engine from Oxford at some point. Then I've got this. Now, I don't think this is definitely not the same scale as the Oxford van, because it's pretty much the same van, actually. It looks very, very similar. This probably isn't 1/76 railway scale, as that box helpfully denotes on it, which is very good. So probably maybe another thing to sell on, or I'm actually going to put a shelf up here, and then my certificate from my 9F1-1 edition, this one, I'm going to get a frame, and then I'm going to put a shelf about here, and then I can have a picture frame with that in, and then I can put my other things, such as my Lisbon tram, on the other wall. Maybe I could just have that on the shelf as just a nice thing to look at, but got that as well. Don't know if I'll sell that on, but we'll see how things go with that. I've got some buffer stops. Now, I just saw these in the box and picked them up. Obviously, they're not the same as my other buffer stop, but I haven't yet decided what buffer stops I want on all the ends of my siding. So, I've got some buffer stops because I can use them for the time being, or sell them on for, I don't know, 15p each or something like that. Moving on again, I have a Pennine bus. That's what it says on the side. Leyland National 10.3 metre short body, it says on the underneath, and it says EFE 1/76, so this is the correct scale. Obviously you can see how small that car is compared to that bus, because it is in scale. So yeah, another bus. I do need some buses on my layout for transporting people, etc. I think I'm going to put some roads somewhere. I think I'm going to put a level crossing just over here before the station, but I haven't exactly decided on that yet. But you know, thought if I end up adding roads, that's some black grime actually. There's some black grime just down here that I've tried to sweep off to get it out of shot, but it's actually smudged. Anyway, not to worry. So I thought if I add roads, I can use this bus. If not, I can always sell it on again. Coming up to the last couple of things now, we have this traction engine, which I really like. I don't think this is in scale either, although it does say Corgi, which would suggest, since Corgi is a model railway brand, likes Oxford and like EFE, as this says under here. I thought, you know what, that's quite nice. If it isn't to scale on my layout, because my layout's going to be it's not really a prototypical layout, but it's going to have an oldish theme on it, if you know what I mean. I thought this might be nice. It's a bit cobwebby, a bit dusty, but I can get a paintbrush and dust it up nicely and make sure it's all working properly and the chains aren't tangled. And quite like this rubber band on here for the generator to the flywheel, or flywheel to the generator. That's quite nice. So you know what, I thought, if I can put it on my layout, very nice. It's a very nice thing. If not, again, I can just put it on the shelf up there. We have a actual box, so I can technically call this an unboxing, from Corgi again, so I'm not sure if it is in scale or whether it's just a nice thing. That's just a box. I'll put that out of shot over there, and I'll take the last thing out of the bag and move the bag off shot as well, so we've got a little bit more room to spread some things out so you can see what I've got, like so. So we'll take the polystyrene off and move that out of the way, because that's not important. As you can see here, it is a Corgi van. So just like the Oxford Rail van, we have a Corgi van. Now this is a Volkswagen camper van, it looks like, or some sort of Volkswagen van. Again, it says Corgi, VW Type 2, that's what I meant, couldn't remember the name. So again, like with the Oxford little car, you might say, oh, that's a bit advertising, isn't it, having a specifically branded Oxford car with an Oxford sign on it, and it might be a bit of an advertisement having a Corgi van with the Corgi sign on the end of it. But you know what? I quite like this van, and it also adds another element of model railways. Obviously, if it's a model railway, but if you've got names of like Oxford on it, and if you've got Corgi on it, you know, it's just a nice thing to have. I don't know if Oxford ever have been going this long. I don't know if Oxford Diecast ever actually had vans like this to deliver the Oxford stuff. If they did, that'd be pretty interesting. I don't know when Oxford was made, when the company originally started, and I don't know when Corgi originally, you know, when it originally got founded. But you know what, it's a nice van, a nice car, and it's a nice VW Type 2 camper van type thing that's been converted into here. And also it's the Corgis Collector's Club from 1992, which is quite old actually, so it's quite an oldish thing. I do quite like it, to be fair. I quite like the blue and the cream, it works quite well, and I just, you know, it's just a nice thing to have. So there's those two, and then finally this is, I guess, what you call a novelty item. Not really that much to do with model railways, but it's a pencil sharpener. It's sort of like a rocket type theme. Obviously doesn't run on the rails or anything like that, but it's a pencil sharpener. It's like a steampunky type thing. It's got elements of Rocket with the big back wheels and the sorry, that's the wrong way around, isn't it? It's got elements of Rocket with the big wheels and the small wheels, but they're the wrong way around. Same type of boilers, a weird dome there, and there's a dome at the front. It's quite a steampunky type thing, but nonetheless, since it looks like a train, I thought I'll have it anyway. As you can see there, the pencil sharpener blade at the bottom, and that's the box. So yeah, got quite a nice selection of things there. Fixed up Flying Scotsman, so that works really nicely. Gonna fix that up, and that'll be next week's video. Well, it'll be fixing this up and sorting the motor out and transferring everything over to this locomotive. So next week's video is fixing up this 040, and that'll be coming out next week on Tuesday at normal time. Other than that, that's pretty much everything I got. So reasonable sized haul I've got here. Got some nice cars and vans and such I can put on my layout. Got some buffer stops. Got some things I can potentially sell. I've got one really good thing out of it, the Flying Scotsman. Hopefully I have another engine next week when I fix that up for you. Got a useful information leaflet that's just good for reference, and also just because it's strange. And I've got some nice things to put on the shelf up here. So I think that pretty much covers everything in today's video. That's all the things I got in my model railway haul. Would just like to say thank you very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and it's been nice to have a look myself, because I haven't looked at many of these in detail. It's been nice to look at these myself in a bit more closer detail, and hopefully it's been interesting for you too as well, to see what I got in my model railway haul, and also where it all came from. So thank you very much for watching today's video. Do hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you in the next one. So take care of yourself, folks, and bye for now.